A very good morning to all of you, students. Today we are going to begin up with a new chapter, chapter number 5, production function in our economics. Production function. What do we mean by the word production? As the word production clearly confines with transformation of raw material to produce the finished form of goods. In the similar way, our economics deals with raw material considering it as an input and the finished goods considering it as output. So transformation of inputs to outputs is generally considered as production in our economics. And in a similar way, the relationship or the functional relationship or the technological relationship of producing or transforming those inputs to outputs is considered as your production function. Moving on. Production function. The basic relationship between the factors of production and the output is referred to as a production function. The firm's production function for a particular good shows the maximum amount of the good that can be produced using alternative combinations of capital, that is denoted by K in our economics, and labor, that is denoted by L in economics. As you can see, Q, which is the quantity of goods produced, is or is dependent upon or is the function of capital and labor. Basically, how much capital you are going to use in the business, how much labor you are going to employ in the business will let you know how much quantity of goods to be produced upon. So, production function is the relationship or the study of relationship between or the functions of capital and labor. These capital and labor are considered as your inputs or the factors of production, and this quantity is considered as your output. So the relationship, functional relationship to study that how these inputs get transformed to output is known as your production function. Moving on. Production function. As you can see over here, labor, power and fuel, machinery, tools, physical force, raw material, these all are the inputs which are engaged to produce this output. That is commodities or the goods which you see in the market. Now, the basic process of converting these inputs into outputs is your production function. Moving on. Important facts about production function. A production function is expressed with reference to a particular period of time. It expresses a physical relation because both inputs and outputs are expressed in physical terms. Production function describes a purely technological relation because what can be produced from a given amount of inputs depends upon the state of technology, or rather the technology which we are using. That is why it is considered as your technological relationship, because what kind of machinery you are employing in your business, it clearly defines what quantity of production you are going to have. That is why it is a technological relationship. Types of production function. Students, we are going to discuss about two types of production function. One of them is short run production function and the other is long run production function. In economics, we do not say that short-term production function is just confined to 1 year or 2 year or 3 year, or rather more than 3 years is long run. No. However, time period is concerned in relation to the inputs, how much input or how much change in input we can bring upon for this time period is considered over here. The nature of production function, that is how output varies with change in the quantity of inputs, depends upon the time period allowed for the adjustment of inputs. On this basis, production function is classified into two types. Short-term production function, time when one input, say capital, remains constant and an addition to output can be obtained only by using more labor. Why it has been said that? Reason being, in short run, we presume that we cannot import more of the machinery, we cannot purchase more machinery. So if we have to increase the production, we can only increase it by employing more and more labor. That is why that kind of function where only one factor of production is variable and rest all are constant, it becomes a short-term production function. Long-run production function. Over here, both inputs become variable. That is, in the long run, you can purchase machinery also, or you can employ more labor also, or vice versa, or both of them. Here, all the factors are variable. Alright, because you are having more time period to produce goods. Short run and long run. Period of production during which some inputs cannot be varied. For a company, it is easy to add new labor, then add new equipments. So labor as a factor of input can be varied in the short run, and thus it impacts the production. So over here you can see short run is denoted by, short run is a function of labor only because capital is constant over here. So any change in labor will bring about a change in your production. Long run, period of production that gives managers adequate time to vary all the inputs used to produce a good. Long run, quantity of input or quantity of output will be the function of both capital and labor. Both will be changed, thus bringing about a change in the quantity of goods produced. Adding new equipments to the existing setup to increase the production. This is long run, which means basically fixed factors will not change with the level of output. Example, machine. If machine you cannot import for the short run concept, this means this will not vary with the level of activity. However, variable factors are those factors which vary with the level of activity. Ma'am, as you said, short run production function, it where only one factor will remain variable and the other factors will remain constant. This means in short run we are having fixed factors also and variable factors also. However, in long run, all the factors will vary. This means in long run we are not having any fixed factor. All the factors will be considered as your variable factors. Moving on, the questions for the day. What is production function? What is short run and long run production function? What are the two types of factors? Have a good day. Stay safe. Stay home.